All right, here's my episode 1, and I hope these get better over time, but I just wanted to go through how I'm building Mormon Trail RPG. And I'm going to go through it a bit ahead of schedule, so this isn't quite real time. I've been doing this for a minute, but I want to show you my progression on how this has worked. I'm starting everything in Claude. Claude for the desktop. I forget exactly what plan I have. It's a paid pro plan that I pay for myself. And the thing about these tools that I've learned just from personal work is it's really important you create a project. A project is where you can create a bunch of files that are interconnected. Claude does a pretty good job around the referencing old things. I'll talk about limitations of this later, which I learned because I just started out with Claude. But this is my foundation, and you can see how much I've been using it in this. Now, as far as the game engine, I did a lot of research on this, and the game engine itself is a engine called Godot. Look, I don't know anything about game design and development. So I basically used AI to say, hey, here's where I'm at. I'm a beginner designer. I'm using AI to build code, and I'm a zero. I know nothing about engineering. What do you recommend? Godot came up as number 1 or 2 in most queries, and actually used Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini. I asked them, and actually Grok. I asked 4 different models the same question. Godot was either number 1 or number 2. I learned that the system works with what most LLM AI tools can output, which is JSON. I don't actually even know what it is still. Maybe I'll learn. But I can edit the code files directly with the tools that Godot can read. And it seems like Godot's a pretty big community in open source, although I haven't really had to use it yet. So that's where I started as far as my tool stack is Claude and Godot. Now, how I started with the game design was really simple. This whole concept of the game is taking a game I love, Oregon Trail, taking a system that exists inside of that, survival, turn-based, and then I wanted to add in these sub-experiences, like combat being much more RPG driven, where you have characters and progression, game systems that will work together, which I'll talk about later. But then the lore is historically founded. I'm not Mormon. My family is ex-Mormon. I have friends who are active Mormon, really good friends, and friends who just grew up in Arizona. This is just part of our lives, know a lot about it. So my goal is to make a historically real game, the journey, the struggles, the systems. But I want to make a historically inaccurate layer of this, of supernatural benefits, experiences, challenges, combats, powers, because that would be cool, right? What if you pray and could blast enemies? So I'm trying to interweave this. So my first really week or plus, I don't know, was just doing research. I wanted to learn the migration route. I wanted to think about the game itself. And one thing that I learned was game design documents. And so you can see here, and I'll link to all of these eventually. I thought about every part of my game, and I actually used AI to design the game on paper. So game design documents it's not code. They're not really long, most of them. Let me see if I can click onto one of these. So here's my first game design document. Here's the pillar. Here's what it's about. Here are the mechanics of how it's going to work. Here's what we're going to do. First going to release on web. Then I would love this to be iOS. And so I just basically thought about my game, had a lot of conversations. The output for AI at this level were all the game design documents. And it's a lot, I realized, but I think that's where I got started. I don't even know how long it's going to be, but I think at the biggest takeaway, the concept, the game design documents, and the tool stack were really step 1 for me inside of this. So let's go to one of my earlier chats, and you can see how long ago this was that I started. Where I started with Claude was just using Claude. Spoiler alert, using Claude and Claude Code is the best setup, or the best one I've had. But how I started was just to say, okay, I have this game, I have this idea. Claude, review all the docs. I uploaded them in the project. And then this is a hack I've learned for any AI tool, is you actually have it ask you questions one at a time. You give it a bunch of answers one at a time, and then it can clarify its own answer. So I use this in work. I use this all the time. I say, okay, ask 10 clarifying questions based on what I know and what I've provided, ask the questions one at a time, wait until you go to the next question until you get my answer. And then we just did it. So yeah, because you don't know what you don't know. And I spent a lot of time designing out everything on paper, but then when I uploaded it into here, then it was like, okay, what does actually make sense? What doesn't make sense? And I did also forget that I created a prompt for the project that basically identifies the persona of AI. So basically saying you are this AI engineer, designer here. So I'll make sure I copy and paste that or have that as available as a file for people to use. You can just create your own. You don't even need mine. So now every time I'm going through all of this, it's using that persona as like a reference point that allows it to give me answers like whatever I decided. So you're a game designer, game engineer. So as it's asking me all these questions, it's thinking about that from that perspective. And this is like one of the biggest concepts to know as you're using AI in your life and business, is that like the better you set up that experience, the better your output's going to be. So if you just go to a blank chat and just ask it a question, which is what most people do, it'll just give you an answer. But if you need to be a thinking partner, a creation partner, whatever, you need to hone in on like the experience that it has from this massive neural network that can focus in on bringing to you the best of that for its answers. So in doing game design, I wanted to be thinking like a game designer, asking me questions like a game designer, challenging me like that. So that's where that prompt at the very beginning and that like persona comes into play. Side note, why am I doing this? It's because I want to know how to use this better in all areas of my life, especially at Design Pickle. I don't necessarily believe I'm going to be the coder or programmer for my company, but I want to be able to go to my team and be like, hey, I did this in a month. What are we doing? How we do it? And here's how I did it. I can look at workflows and challenge. And that's a leadership philosophy I've had my whole life, is I can't manage someone to do something a certain way unless I know how to do it. Maybe not at an expert level, but like conceptually. So that's what this project is all about. It's also really fun, but I don't have a ton of time to put towards it. And I'm generally getting less sleep because I like to wake up like an hour extra early and just code around. So anyway, so back to this part. This is, I think, like the most important, because I did a bunch of work on what I thought the game was. I uploaded it, had it ask me a bunch of questions to clarify all of these things. And then once it's done, then I'm going to just not read through everything. I'm going to find it here. Then it gets to the final, okay, now that I understand all these questions, here's what we're going to do. And here's how we're going to build it out. So I basically have it like, give me the plan, and then what's next is to actually start building out the structure of the game. A few caveats on here. There is the necessity, and I'm not sure if it's here, where you have to make sure your extensions are installed. The most important one I have is this file system extension. So this one allows you to work directly on your computer. I still haven't figured out an issue, and maybe someone watching this can help me. Claude Web, which is what we'll call this, can't do like terminal commands, which is like the real hacker coding stuff. So you basically just got to make sure this file system is the one that you can is active. And then what happens there is you are able to have it create stuff on your computer. So I created a game folder on my desktop, probably not the best place for it, but it's backed up, don't worry. And then from there and all the answers that I gave it, it then started to create the folder structure and everything it needed for Godot, because that's what I told it at the very beginning we're doing. So I think that's like wrapping up this first video, like how to get started with AI to design the game, what tools I'm using, how to get started in like the game itself, like clarifying what you need. Then using Claude Web, I basically, once the plan was clear, just said, go for it and start building. I'll probably do a separate video of like bugs and lessons and things along the way. But that, I think, is chapter 1 here. At the end of this, I have the game plan. I have my like core system set up, and yeah, I'll go from there. All right. Take care, everyone. We'll talk to you on the next log.